Namaste and greetings. I, Priyanka Negi, researcher at IMPRI Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI Web Policy Learning. Today, we come together for a special session on International Women's Day, a day of immense significance that not only celebrates the social, economic, cultural, and political contributions of women worldwide, but also calls for urgent action to address the persistent challenges that hinder true gender equality. This year, under the global theme for all women and girls, rights, equality, empowerment, we reaffirm our commitment to unlocking equal rights, power, and opportunities for all. Our gathering today is part of the Young Women Leaders in Public Policy Fellowship, Cohort 2.0, with the theme Getting Foothold in Politics, Governance, and Gainful Employment, a Gender Lens. This initiative, organized by IMPRI's Gender Impact Studies Center, aligns with the global movement for gender equity and women's empowerment. As we celebrate this occasion, we must recognize that 2025 is a pivotal movement. It marks the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. This historic framework remains the most progressive and widely endorsed blueprint for advancing the rights of women and girls worldwide. Over the past 3 decades, it has shaped legal protections, enhanced access to services, and fostered a shift in social norms and stereotypes. However, the journey is far from over. Empowering women and girls is not just about celebrating achievements. It is about driving systemic change and ensuring a feminist future where no one is left behind. We must engage media, corporate leaders, policymakers, community advocates, and youth to take collective action in promoting gender equality. On this International Women's Day, let us not only celebrate the strides we have made, but also commit to accelerating progress towards a more just and equitable world. The chair for the program today is Professor Vibhuti Patelji, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI and a renowned advocate for gender equality and women's empowerment. The co-chair for the program is Professor M. Indira, former professor of economics at the Department of Studies in Economics and Cooperation, University of Mysore. We are privileged to have with us today two distinguished speakers, Ms. Amarjeet Kaur, General Secretary, All India Trade Union Congress, and Ms. Anuja Gulati, State Program Coordinator, United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA. The panel of conveners for this program are Dr. Simi Mehta Dr. Arjun Kumar Professor Gumadi Sridevi and Advocate Shalu Nigam Before we begin, there are a few housekeeping announcements. Please join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions on the Q&A box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise and refrain from making general comments in the questions to save time. Without any further ado, let us start our program. And I would like to invite the chair, Professor Vibhuti Patelji, to deliver the opening remarks, followed by Professor M. Indira for her opening remarks. We welcome you, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you, Priyanka, for introducing the course. And today we have a special lecture under the Public Policy Qualitative Public Policy for Women's Leader. And today's convener, I express my heartfelt thanks, Dr. Simi Mehta, Dr. Arjun Kumar, and coordinators, Ms. Priyanka Negi, Vaishali Singh, and today's moderator also, Dr. Ms. Priyanka Negi. I express my welcome and very heartfelt greetings to Comrade Amarjeet Kaur, Dr. Ms. Anuja Gulati, and Professor Indira on this International Women's Day. We all know that International Women's Day, the theme is accelerate action for all women, girls, their rights, equality, and empowerment. And it focuses on recognizing strategies and tools that drive women's progress in all fields of human development. And it is a bold call for action for all women and girls worldwide. And this also marks a 50th anniversary of women's rights movement, the declaration in 1975 for equality, development, and peace. Let us start the program by paying our tribute to revolutionary foremothers such as Clara Zetkin and women textile workers of Chicago. It was in 1907 that women held a hunger march in New York in protest against dangerous working conditions and extremely high workload under tremendous hardship and unsafe work condition. The tension over low wages, inconsistent shifts, high production quotas, and unsafe work condition, these are the problems which were there even in 1907, and they are there now also under the neoliberal globalization that's happening due to world capitalism. On March 8, 1908, commemorative march was held in solidarity with the struggles which the textile women were waging. It was for the first time in the human history that thousands of women came together and they marched in several countries. And this date, as we know, was International Working Women's Day. And by 1911, it had become an internationally recognized day. Women marched on the streets against jingoism and campaigned against First World War. The genesis of International Women's Day can be tracked back to the struggle of women workers in the 19th and 20th century. So I think this is a very important part of the history that we need to remember. And when 14,000 textile workers, they said that better to starve fighting than starve working. And the new song that emerged was Bread and Roses. And on 8th March, all the women's organizations with the progressive ideas, they sing this song, which symbolizes economic justice, and roses represent quality of life. And the verses go like that: as we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, the million darkened kitchens are 1,000 meals lots away, are touched with all radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we battle too for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. For men can never be free till our slavery at the end. Our lives shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve, and as well as bodies, give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching, unnumbered women dead go crying through our singing their ancient call for bread. Small art and love and beauty, their drudging spirits knew. Yes, it is bread we fight for, but we fight for roses too. As we go marching, marching, we bring the greater days. The rising of women means rising of the race. No more the drudge and idler, tend that toil where one reposes, but sharing of life glories, bread and roses, bread and roses. So International Women's Day is a gift of the working class women to women of the world. United Nations formally proclaimed March 8 in 1975. And after that, the official stamp on this day also came, and the governments and the nation states also started commemorating. It has become more of a celebration rather than commemoration. On 8th March, women's rights activists remind humankind of the glorious legacy of women's collective strength, solidarity, struggle, that by reclaiming and retelling her story, HERSTORY, of International Women's Day. With this, we also reaffirm the legacy of women's struggles as a part of the struggle for transformation of society as a whole. It is to rebuild piece of history of feminism that is an indispensable link between women's liberation and liberation of humankind, pathway of justice, equality, liberty, and dignity. Today, we have these two renowned committed women's rights activist, Comrade Amarjeet Kaur, who represents the working class women's movement, and Ms. Anuja Gulati, who has been with the United Nations Population Fund. Both of them have played a pivotal role in women's empowerment and also the women's dignity and women's human rights. Over to IMPRI team.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to request Indira ma'am to please kindly share her thoughts for today as well.
Later on. She's traveling.
Okay. In that case, Thank you so much, ma'am, for introducing the program to us today. And with that, I am honored to welcome Ms. Amarjeet Kaur, who will be delivering her session on Profile of Collective Struggles of Women for Equality, Peace and Development. We welcome you, ma'am. The floor is all yours now.
Thank you, Priyanka. And first of all, I must thank Professor Vibhuti Patel. The song which we love, she narrated the whole song. And that itself tells the story of this International Women Day. So, very beautifully, you presented your opening remarks, Vibhuti ji. And naturally, the journey continues as Priyanka in her introductory remarks she was saying. We will celebrate also and we will continue our journey also. You mentioned about textile women's agitation, then the march by the women. I just want to add over there for our participants who are here that it was in 1910 when all these things were reminded by Clara Zetkin in a meeting, international meeting of workers' associations. And there she said, this is how the women have been fighting and suffering. And she quoted big accidents also, their deaths also, then their resilience also, then their fight also. And she said, we observe May Day as a workers' day. We also need to observe a day for our working women to celebrate their lives as well as to understand their struggles also. And every time taking a pledge that women still have to go a long way, and working women should be remembered for this thing, and we should enhance their rights at the not only at home, in the society, at workplace also. So Clara Zetkin had raised this voice, which was accepted in that international meeting. And then from 1910 and 11, we find 11 onwards, we find in some countries, this International Working Women Day started happening. And this is also true that it took so many years from 1910 the voice was raised, 1911 this started getting observed in some places. It took so many years, almost I should say 64 years, that ultimately in 1975 UN system recognized this, as Vibhuti ji also mentioned. But this is also true what she said, that it became more of just a celebration by the governments and administrations. वो तो यूलोजाइज करना है लेडीज को, ओके ओके कहना है, गुड गुड कहना है, but the battle continues, and the battle continues for both the things. One is that whatever in this whole journey the rights are achieved, they get endangered time to time if we don't remain prepared to defend them. And second is nothing is much achieved up till now, so lots needs to be achieved, so the struggle has to go on to achieve what is not yet achieved. So struggle is for both, to defend what we have achieved and to continue struggle to achieve more. That is how I wanted to add. And this song which she told about became very popular in Russia also, when there was a battle being put up against Tsar of Russia. And the women, I should say, in that Russian Revolution against Tsar, women's role was very important. It is they who began their struggle, and then ultimately the whole working class joined it, and then the working class appealed to the farming community, and those farmers' sons and who were there in the army, they also gave up those military dresses, and they joined these ranks of workers, those farmers also. This is how it began. So even the first revolution which happened and which continued successfully for so many decades, women's role was very, very significant and important. Now, when we come to the situation about talking about the agitations, collective movements for women's rights, I would like to say that Indian journey is very long. much longer than not beginning from 20th century beginning. From 19th century itself, when we found that how our society is working, it was that time the first voices were raised by the social reformers. For the benefit of my participants, I'm reminding, most of you must be knowing, that there was a sati pratha in our country when the young girls were to sit on pyre when the husband dies. That sati pratha, so that movement was fought against for right to live of the girls. Then no widow marriage was allowed, so that also became a very big issue. Child marriage was being continued, so that was a very big issue. Girls were not educated, so girls education is important. That was also an issue with the social reformers. So those who social reformers, and then those who entered into the political arena, when they were talking about national freedom movement, they also raised the social questions also. And they were believing that until and unless you socially and culturally raise yourself from the kind of backwardness you are there, you will not be able to confront your colonial masters. So this was their argument. And that's why they insisted on education of all children also, and especially the girl child education also. And we know that Swami Saraswati Dayanand, during his discourse, he emphasized a lot on the girls' education also. And in that context, we remember Savitribai Phule also, and those others also who talked about girls' education. So it was not so simple to talk about those issues. Those who raised the issue, they had to face the wrath of the backward people in the society. Even Savitribai Phule had to face so much, Mahatma Phule had to face so much, talking about girls' education and the girls' rights. So, when we talk of movements, agitations, and struggles, we have to think in terms of social movements, cultural movements, political movements, trade union movement, women's movement, students' movement. All kind of movements have to have a component of gender justice. Then only the things move forward. That's why I began with the social reforms movement. And that is how, when we enter the 20th century, then we find also, apart from our struggles, we also find how strong is the mindset, that there were people who opposed the social reforms movement also. So they were part of our society only. So we knew how the society is socially divided as far as gender question is concerned, because those who wanted the old customs and traditions to continue, and women to be dictated through those customs and traditions to remain subjugated subject, naturally they opposed all these kinds of issues being raised by the progressive sections of the society, not only women, all the progressive sections of the society. So in the we have to also look into this question, that in the 19th century, when the trade union movement started growing, which began in the last decades of 19th century, then in 20th century, when the trade union movement was further expanding and the unions were being formed at different places, so then we find traces of women becoming leaders in the trade union movement to organize the workers, even those who themselves were not workers. They were the somebody was professor, somebody was a journalist, somebody was a doctor, somebody who became first advocate. So these women took up the issue of working women in jute areas, in textile areas, in scavenging areas, in whole cleaning areas. The women workforce was organized by these women leaders also, and they were accepted as their leaders by those workers, and men and women, everybody respected those women. So women's leadership and struggle is not a new phenomena. It began during our freedom movement also. So we find in freedom movement the emergence of women leadership within the freedom struggle, which Bapu Gandhi and others were leading. Women leadership emerging in the revolutionary underground revolutionary movement also. Women leadership emerging in trade unions also. Then women were participants in the farmers' agitations also. So women were there in every type of a struggle, we can say. And but how the mindset works, even those who are far women, but sometimes subconsciously they are using the language which is how I will place, which doesn't go with the gender justice question. I just quote you one example. Subhadra Devi Chauhan, a great poetess, she wrote several poems. But when she was praising Lakshmi Bai, Rani Jhansi, in her praise she is saying, "Khoob ladi mardani veh to Jhansi wali Rani thi." Now, mardani means mardo jaisa ladi. Woman is a fighter. She need not be like mard. She is a woman and she fought. So she fought. There was no need of giving the simile of Mardani. But it doesn't mean that Subhadra Kumari Chauhan was not for women. She was all for women. But what I'm saying is that centuries old, the things which came in language, it came in culture, it came in traditions, it came in customs. All those things were controlling the woman. Woman psyche, woman behavior dictates on women. The family will control how the religious institutions will control, how those who believe in rituals, they try to control women. So this was there. So the battle is in all the spheres. So mindset and attitudes is very, very strong area, I should say, when we will be coming to the question of our struggle has to continue. That's why it becomes important. Who are the policy makers? What are the kind of policies? What do you do in those policies about budgeting for implementing those policies? So when all this question comes, then it comes very important. What is the mindset of the policy makers? What is the mindset of interpreters of those policies? What is the mindset who are making laws? What is the mindset of those who are interpreting those laws? And what is the mind of those people who are going to do justice delivery, delivery of justice? And after delivery of justice, those who will be implementing those decisions taken in the courts. So from top to bottom, wherever you go, it becomes very important and pertinent question. And that's why it's not a so simple a debate. It's a very, very tough thing which we are discussing. So ultimately, in a pre-independence era, the women are known to be great participant in Telangana armed struggle. Women were participants in Tebhaga movement. That was a peasants movement. Telangana was by farmers. Tebhaga movement was by farmers. So women were in large numbers in those movements, in those struggles, and they proved that they are equal fighters also, and they have right to demand equality even on the land question. They should. They fought at that time, but getting rights of girls on the family lands did not come so early. It has come recently. You can understand how many decades it took, despite women proving that they were part of the struggle for the farmers movement. And we saw how the women were great participant in the 13-month long sit-in by the farmers on Delhi borders also. The women were the real power, giving a real power to the whole that movement, the way they were getting mobilized and all. So when we look at that question, there we find that the women's participation in the trade unions began in the pre-independence era. Women's participation in the farmers movement began over there. But the question of bringing changes in the lives of women, those who started raising it within the freedom movement, the middle class women, they raised the question of child marriage. They to stop child marriage. They talked about allowing widow marriage. Uh, most of the demands were around about the middle class concept about getting rights for women. It was not from the point of view of working class or the point of view of farming community, from that point of view. So these issues was raised. So they talked naturally. Sati Pratha law was made to stop Sati Pratha, widow marriage. Then ultimately that question also came: widow marriage will be allowed. Then the child marriage, then the laws were made. So pre-independence, these issues were there, whereas the working women were not part of the kind of first women organization which was founded during Sarojini Naidu's period. But in the post-independence India, 1954, National Federation of Indian Women was founded. Who founded this organization? Those who were freedom fighter women, those who were with the Kisan movement, those who were with the workers movement, those who were directly into the political movement. So they were the founders. So most of the women from all over India, those who had been participants of these movements, these struggles, they founded NFIW. Later on, we found several groups, several other organizations also got founded. But 54, this NFIW founded, where Aruna Asif Ali, who in post-independent India was the first mayor of Delhi, and it was she who unfurled the flag in Bombay in Maidan for Quit India movement in 1942. Aruna Asif Ali, she was at that time only Aruna. Later on, she got married to Asif Ali ji, so her name was, everybody knows her about Aruna Asif Ali. So Aruna was among those people, among those freedom fighters who founded this fighting organizations. So several of them later on became member parliaments, or legislation members of legislations. And these women who had come up in the movement, from farmers, from the workers movement, from political movements in the freedom days, they articulated the issues inside parliament and inside the legislations for getting laws as per constitution. If constitution is talking of equality, then those laws should be there in place to get them. So that is how their inheritance in property question came. When she gets widow, what are her rights? Then she must have a right to education. Then she must have a skill training. She must have a right to employment. She must have a the equality at the workplace, at par with the men workers. So equality in wages, equality in parks, equality in benefits, equality in social security. All these issues became important because these were the issues by the trade unions, and naturally NFIW also supported those issues which the trade unions were raising as far as women were concerned. So in this manner, we find that the ILO conventions started coming. The trade unions wanted ratification of those conventions. So there were important conventions like Maternity Benefit Act. So in relation to that, this was fought by the trade unions, supported by the women's movement, and we got a Maternity Benefit Act in 1961. But even today, when we say that what we achieved, we have to defend. What we have not got, we have to go forward. Now, this 1961 Maternity Benefit Act, which after a great struggle on streets and inside the parliament, we got that law. How many working women are covered by this law? Even till today, I should say, out of 100 women, if they are working, hardly 4 to 5% of them are covered by this maternity benefit, whatever is there in India. 95% of women till today are not enjoying any kind of maternity benefit. So the battle has to go on. She has to have that right. It doesn't mean that if she is working in the fields and she is a hawker, she is a vendor. No, she drives a rickshaw also, and she is selling vegetables also. Everywhere in the unorganized sector, even unregistered factories, she is working over there. So she is not covered in formal economy. She is not covered. Those women who are in the construction side, they are not covered. So vast majority of women workforce in informal economy, unorganized sector, has no benefit of this Maternity Benefit Act. So the battle is quite long. Similarly, child care services. It took so much long time to ask for this thing, child care services. And it was a big battle by the trade unions that in the Factories Act, we started getting the child care facilities. But then it was limited to so many women should be there, then only we'll give. So we had to fight. No, you go by the number of laborers there, and then the maternity this child care services be provided and crutches to be given. So that law we got, but implementation is a problem. It's not happening even in government sector, even in public sector, what to talk of private sector. Then in 1975, when the International Women Year was declared, it became a compulsion for the governments to show to the world in respective international conferences that we are doing something. So in India also, ICDS scheme was started, Integrated Child Development Scheme, where 100% workforce is women. But they were put upon 100 rupees and 50 rupees. 100 rupees to working to Anganwadi worker and 50 rupees to helper. From there, after 1 year, we started organizing them. The trade unions started organizing them. And today we have brought them to the level of now state and center together. Not less than 6,000, it is more than 6,000. In some states, it is 10,000. They began with 100. So it was a long battle. But till today, they are not even considered as workers. When midday meal scheme was introduced in 90s, even those are not called workers. They are called volunteers. These Anganwadi workers are called volunteers. Then this health scheme was introduced in 2004, which is called ASHA scheme. Now there also it is women. In midday meal also, women are almost 90%, only 10% are men. In ASHA also 95% women, 5% are men. But none of them is a worker status. So they don't enjoy any workers' rights. So we have been fighting to get them workers' right. But what was the mindset? If you are looking after the family at home, that extension of work is from outside, then why we should treat you as workers? So as if working at home is not a labor. It is a labor. That's how the women's movement has to say that whatever unpaid work the women are doing at home should become a part of statistics of the governments, that this is the contribution that should be calculated into the total GDP also. So that international women's movement had to pick up that issue, and in our country also we picked up that issue from the trade unions as well as from the women's movement. You cannot do like this because we look after children, because we cook at home, because we do the cleaning, because we look after the elderly and the sick people. So same thing if we go outside and we are spending 7 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours or 10 hours, and then you say we don't pay you, we don't treat you as worker. So this whole question of they be given wages and not honorarium, they be treated as workers to be covered under labor laws, this battle is going on. Till date, the governments have not accepted, even though the Indian Labour Conference recommended it. They should be treated as workers. They should be given ESIC facilities. They should be given wages and not honorarium. They be treated as government employee. And now recently, one judgment came from one court that they should be paid gratuity. Then from Gujarat court, it came that they should be treated as government employees. So, but the policy has to be made now. Only court announcement will not help until and unless there is policy in the parliament. So at policy level, women to be there, and women who do understand what are the issues, not because they are women and so they are there. Women who really understand what are the real issues of our women, working or non-working. Because those who are at home, I don't say they are non-working. They are also working. But they are doing unpaid work. But we are not asking for payment of that. We are asking for recognition of that into statistics and giving respect to them. And if they come out, apart from handling home, then they have to be treated at par with other workers. So that battle goes on. The child care facility is a big issue in the country. We are telling ICDS should be converted into full day work. Then all our informal economy, poor women will be able to place their children there and without fear go and work. Otherwise, every day we hear the working women losing their children, meeting accidents and all, because they leave them at home or outside home or in care of somebody neighborhood, and they go out for work and these incidents happen. So it is a quite a serious issue. Third issue is Equal Remuneration Act. We fought for several years, but we did not get that act. Ultimately, when in UNO 1975 got declared as International Women Year. And then Indian government had also to tell that yes, we are caring for it. So this ICDS was introduced, one, and second thing which was introduced, Equal Remuneration Act, equal pay for equal work between men and women. Now Equal Remuneration Act we are using for equal pay for equal work for between men and men also, women and men also. So but is it realized? I tell you, in the working place, in many places, women are paid 60% or 70%, or even some places only 50% of the wage which a man for the same work does, and for same number of hours. It's not less hours, it's not different work, it's the same work. So that battle goes on in the as far it is International Working Women Day. So working women are suffering, and that's what I'm trying to tell you, that it's a big issue for the trade unions. So Equal Remuneration Act, the child care services. Then now what is added now? Added now is workplace safety, and we have been asking for that. It's not only workplace safety from the point of view of health hazards. It is also from the point of view of gender justice, that they should not be sexually exploited or harassed by the employers or by colleagues while going to workplace or while commuting or while being at the workplace. So occupational safety health question also. Separately, we talked about no sexual harassment, so prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. And you can imagine that it's a serious issue for women workers. It used to be and it continues to be. And if the society degenerates into go towards the backward side, then this crisis increases. And in our country also, we are finding it, the crisis increasing. It's not getting solved. Perhaps the most popular law which the women know is they know by Vishakha judgment. And then these Vishakha guidelines with Justice Verma gave in Bhavri Devi case, that Satin's case of Rajasthan, nobody was ready to implement those guidelines. And we had to struggle a lot. Women's movement at their level and the trade unions at our level. We fought, and it took us several years to get it implemented into, to be brought into standing orders, government standing orders. And then after that, having that law, it took us so many years. But ultimately, that girl who died in Delhi, Nirbhaya, she was given name Nirbhaya. It took so many years from 1997 to 2012 that after one girl gets sacrificed, Nirbhaya case, then only a commission is set up, and then this Sexual Harassment Prevention Act comes into being. But even that act doesn't cover informal economy workers appropriately. It's very difficult to get justice. I tell you, being a trade unionist myself, even in the formal economy, in the government departments, in our public sectors, or it is banks, or it is insurance, or it is coal sector, or it is steel, or it is petroleum, all those public sectors, or the government's offices, central or state government offices, they don't set up those committees. First condition is to set up committees where a woman can go for complaints. But committees are not set up. When the case happens, then they try to set up a committee. Then those committees are not appropriately set up. Then the ladies or the girls, they are dissuaded to pursue their complaints. And once ultimately they get some decision over there, it doesn't get implemented. So even at the workplace safety, one is occupational safety health. There also we have, India has done backward motion. Our policy framework is changed. We were doing night service in airlines, in hospitals, and in telecommunication, because you have to have 24 hours these services. But we had stopped after international convention. In India also, trade unions got it ratified, and the women's night shift work was stopped from factories and mining area. It was stopped. They will not work in factories, in hotels, and in mines beyond 6 p.m. and before 6 a.m. That was the thing. But no law is changed. In factories also, they have introduced night shift, and there is no commuting facilities being given, and there is no question how you will be providing them safety. So it is not progress, it is regression. It has happened. So many places, when the 4 labor codes will be brought, it will go not only against all the labor force, it will go more against our women labor force. That is the kind of scenario which we are looking at. So all this happens in the workplace areas, and then the safety question comes in. Even those telecom area, especially those who are related with the western part of the world, their work is only in the night. And our studies are telling how the social life and the family life of these boys and young boys and girls is getting disoriented, getting finished. Lots of trauma, lots of tensions, all that is happening. So there women are suffering a lot. I don't have time that I could elaborate on those studies. But on the mindset, I must say it, mindset of the society is very strong. When Rupan Deol Bajaj, herself an IPS officer, when she was mistreated and she wanted to file a cases, her own colleagues in police were telling, don't file the complaint. And it is women organizations and the trade unionist women who gave her courage that you must file, become a case, so that others get inspired. You should not tolerate. We should tell that we are intolerant to this kind of a behavior. And she fought for several years. And then ultimately at the Supreme Court level, when that IPS officer was relieved from there, after several punishments being announced at different level in Supreme Court, Justice Verma himself told us, he was addressing one of the meeting when on the domestic violence question, there was a debate in India, have a law on domestic violence, because whatever was going in the homes, it was being argued, this is private affair. We were arguing it is public affair. You cannot beat your woman and the cries coming out and then you say it is your private affair. So this domestic violence to be considered in law, to make a law. So when this was being debated all over India, the team which was founded, headed by Indira Jaisingh, she went all over India, had the meetings, and also in Delhi, the last meeting in which Justice Verma was also present. I was there from IITUC there. There Justice Verma himself told 3-4 examples he gave. Of course, on Vishakha judgment, he told how hard I had to face the situation, and ultimately the things are not coming up. I am talking of the time when this Nirbhaya case yet had not happened. So Justice Verma told that in Rupal Deol Bajaj case, when in the Supreme Court that kind of judgment came, I asked those judges of Supreme Court, because they are my juniors, I talked to them very frankly and I asked them, come on, tell us, do you really believe that nothing wrong was done to her and you gave this judgment? They say, no, we don't believe that nothing wrong was done to her. Then why did you not give punishment to that person? Why did you give relief to that person? What was the answer? Justice Verma said their answer was, oh, he was a decorated police officer. If we will give punishment, the police forces will be demoralized. Justice Verma said, if in that case, it would have been a woman sitting in that seat and committed a wrong, will you, and a decorated woman, will you give judgment in this manner? then they had no answer. So Justice Verma said they knew wrong has been done. But this is not the way you should say, because somebody is decorated or no decorated. Law is law, and law should be abided by. Second example, he told us, he said when in one of the case, a woman magistrate, she filed a case in Rajasthan. She was being harassed by the male magistrate. And I remember our trade union fellows and our women organization there had to counsel that magistrate to file the case. She was saying her colleagues are telling, don't file the case. But then ultimately she filed the case. And in one of the arguments, the advocate for that male magistrate said, wine and women have always been used in promoting careers in different times. So what if my client made any kind of any mistake or something like this? So Justice Verma said, when I heard that such a argument is used, I never believed it. How that magistrate will allow his advocate speaking like this? But Justice Verma said, in one of the gathering of justices, I caught hold of those justices and I asked them, did it happen in your court that that fellow argued like this? Justice Verma said that I was told, yes, this argument was used. So you can see that I said that the lawmakers, law interpreters, and those who give judicial justice or injustice, or those who have to implement that law. The problem is everywhere. So I'm just giving you those things because when Bhavri Devi, his culprits were acquitted by the High Court there in Jaipur, they were garlanded. And we said it is a very bad precedence. And we saw when Bilki Bano's culprits were given, you see, relief, and they were remnants, they were given remittance in Gujarat, they were also garlanded. So, what is this kind of psyche in the society? It again leads to the who are the policymakers, who are leading us politically, and what are their motive. The motive is only if to take votes in somehow and not looking at the society to go in the progressive way. It becomes a serious question. Another example I want to share with you is this is it used to be there and we raised these issues, but we were not being listened to. The poor women, when they suffer, judiciary behaves in a different way. And when a community, the poor workers suffer in their agitation, to stop their agitation, their women are raped. This incident happened in Bihar. I'm talking of 2 decades ago. And then the judge in the High Court in Patna, he said, oh, these poor women can make these kinds of charges for sake of a few rupees. That was actually to rape the women of those workers to stop their agitation, and the agitation was about their wages. So the class is attacked, and the women are used as a via media. Communities are attacked. Castes, groups are attacked. To punish caste people, you punish their women. You play with their bodies. You want to punish a particular religious body, religious organization, or the religious believing people, then you target their women. This is what happened in Gujarat. These are examples which tell that when it comes to question of women and gender justice, then the political class, the community, the caste, the religious groups, everywhere you find this problem emanating. I remember how in Jammu and Kashmir, the women were being told, "Tum burqa pehno jarur, tum Muslim ho, tum Hindu ho, tum bindi lagao." But Kashmiri Hindu doesn't wear bindi. And many Muslim women, they don't wear burqa, but Hindu women, they wear burqa. How can you stop them? And in Bihar, even Muslim women wear sindoor. How can you stop it? You cannot. So, from all religious fanatic groups, whichever religion it is, how they behave, In Punjab, when Khalistani movement was going on, suddenly they started coming out, those Khalistanis. Don't wear skirt, you have to wear salwar kameez, you can't wear sari here, your chunni should be here on the top, you can't have bare head. We faced this thing when we were opposing those Khalistanis. So whichever religious groups is, the fanatic groups within that try to impose their conditions, which I said in the beginning. Through customs, through rituals, they try to control women's behavior, their social behavior, their cultural ways, their food habits, their dressing styles, all they try to control. So these dictates are put on women. So when we have to struggle, all struggles are important. Trade union movement or workers movement, farmers movement, or the women's movement, social movements, cultural movements, the movements of artists, all are important, and everywhere the struggle has to be done. I remember once Seema telling me, Seema Mustafa, she is a journalist now for several decades. She did her services. When she wanted to go to cover Sri Lanka, she wanted to go to Sri Lanka. She was told it is dangerous area. You cannot go to that area. We will not depute you. And she fought. She said, no, you cannot stop me. You have to give me this assignment. So she dared it and she went over there to prove that we can do coverage like men journalists are doing. We can also go and cover. Similar way, Times of India, I am forgetting her name. She had put up a big battle. She was not getting assignments the way she should get to go to the field. So it is the field of journalism. There also the women had to fight and say that we can equally do our work. It's not in the teaching profession we find, even in the teaching profession, we find problems. In the medical profession, we find problem. Then in journalist all issues, also we find problems. So that's why the journey is quite long for us, as it has been told by the introductory speech, as well as what Vibhuti ji was telling. Now, the discrimination you can observe in parties, you can observe in trade union movement, you can observe in farmers movement, you can observe in social movements, you can observe in NGO sector. Because until and unless there is conscious policies within these movements also, then you cannot really ensure. Your stated policy may be equality, but it has to relate to practice. If in practice you are not implementing it, then the problem continues to be there also. So even and there are sometimes there are reasons also. For example, in political parties, when one third reservation for women came, naturally some political parties said we are putting up very few women and there is no winnability of the candidates, so we are finding it difficult. So those issues were brought before us. Even the issue of reservation within the reservation was brought, and that whole bill was stalled for several decades, which was introduced first time by Geeta Mukherjee, and after that it took so many years for that bill to see the light of the day. But then again, it was brought for the election purposes and not for the purposes of, because you don't know, even if in the next election 2029 you are really going to have your census completed and remuneration completed, and the women will get a reservation over there. So that is a separate issue to be debated, that still continues. So but in this long battle in the national and international level, I had attended first international conference I could not attend, but second international conference in Denmark I attended in Copenhagen. I just reveal you my experience. All the issues of peace, of education, health, right in the political spaces, in the parties, in legislation, in parliament, no wars, peace and justice to come, democratic rights, secular values. When these issues were being raised there, we were being ridiculed. Even some movements from America, some movements from Canada, some movements from Europe, they were trying to ridicule us. They said all these are political issues. Why are you talking about this thing? This is International Women Conference. Don't bring these issues. We said everything has a politics. It's the political setup which is deciding the policies. It is those policies which relate into budgeting, and those budgets can only ensure our rights everywhere. So what are you talking about? They said, no, it is man versus woman. We argued nothing doing. It's not man versus woman issue. It's a gender justice issue. It is a concern of men and women all. It is a societal issue. Society should be concerned about it. So in 80, when I was debating about this thing, I felt so bad. I was a student leader at that time. I was representing Asia Pacific from India. And I was General Secretary of All India Student Federation at that time at All India level. So I had gone to represent International Union of Students and my self there. So I felt very sad. But when 1985 Nairobi happened, all those issues which we debated in Copenhagen, they became the issues of Nairobi conference. And in Nairobi, the decade level program was made. And all the issues under the sky, which they were telling are not women's issues, were treated as women issues. Because there in Copenhagen, we argued and we told them, look, your understanding may be different. We come from the erstwhile colonies. We were enslaved and there were colonial masters. And when we fought for our freedom movement, men and women fought equally. We made our places. So we understand that this issue is an issue of mindset and issue of policy framework. This is how the things will move forward. So we had argued in this manner. Whole of African continent stood by us. We Asian continent was there, and the many other erstwhile colonies from other continents, Latin America especially, they all stood together. And that is how in the 1985 Nairobi, this became agenda. So decade-long agenda. And in 1995, when we reached China, when I went to China, then I was AITUC National Secretary. So I went as part of World Federation Trade Union delegation representing my AITUC. And I was so much satisfied. All the issues under earth were being debated in that International Women Year. And there, this slogan came, women's rights are human rights. So that was to our satisfaction. Once we recognize women's rights are human rights, then that means it has to reflect in the policies. It has to reflect in the budget. It has to reflect in implementation process. And nobody will be allowed to digress or to go backward. That is how the battle has to be carried forward. In 1995, this was a progress made, and then further after that, in the next conferences, further progress has been made. I attended these two conferences. Later on, I didn't find any time to go, but I narrated this, how the changes come. But one thing we have to keep in mind, our own country's experience. Rights, one can be snatched away. Always we have to remember. I know how Sati Pratha was fought in 19th century, and how Roop Kavar was made Sati in independent India. And then we had to fight for changing Sati law. And then we found when we marched from Red Fort to Parliament asking for change in the Sati law, we found from very Red Fort, women were made to march with the thali in their hands, sindoor and bangles with them. They were brought by the political parties to march and go to Parliament and say, no, we want to be Sati, you can't take our right of becoming Sati. So you can understand how women are used against women. And this has been happening in our country. They are used as tool, they are controlled, and then they are used political tools also. So this also we have to keep in mind. Just being woman, you don't become pro-women. Just being a woman legislator, you suddenly don't become conscious of all women issues until and unless somewhere you are involved in these struggles. Somewhere you are involved at the grassroots level and you really have a feel of what is going on at the grassroots level. Then only you will be able to give justice. So that also we found, even when we were debating about rape law, I was still a student in the student movement when Justice Bhagwati was Chief Justice in Supreme Court. When Mathura case had reached Supreme Court, that young girl, 14 years old girl from Maharashtra, who was raped in the police station, and the cases told that she agreed for this. She was a 14-year-old. She can't give consent. So in Supreme Court also, the judgment was like that. So the women organizations fought that, and they formed a delegation to meet Justice Bhagwati. Fortunately, from student movement, I was a student leader in Delhi University at All India level. I was representing. I was taken as a delegate from the students in that women's group. And Justice Bhagwati listened to everybody, and he said, okay, this decision will not be implemented, and another bench was given that case. And after that Mathura case, there were changes in the rape laws. All those changes were brought. But now what is happening? The rapists are being honored. How the political class doesn't react to what happened in Manipur, what was being done by this Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh to our young players, how difficult it was to go to Supreme Court and then take an order asking police to frame the cases. So all that is a part we understand what all is happening. So from that point of view, I think the battle is too long, and it has to be struggle in almost all areas, at the level of poetry, at the level of story writing, at the level of plays being, the films being made, or the movements being designed. All that is required. So there is responsibility of political parties, trade unions, and different movements on this question. Even in the trade unions, as I told you, to come to the concluding part of my presentation, uh, to promote women over there, one has to do a lot. Women to be trained, to be brought into not only membership, but to be brought into the leadership, so that they can articulate the problems which they are facing. That will happen only when they are part of the leadership. They will be able to place what are their real problems in the workplaces. So that kind of agenda we have been pursuing within our trade unions also. uh, like I give you as example, I told the bank union leaders when I became AITUC National Secretary in 1994. I told the public sector unions that, come on, tell me how much percentage of women over are there. This much. Are they unionized? Yes. How many are in your leadership, in your council, in your executive? I found one or two, or in some unions, not a single. So that is where the battle began. I said, no, nothing doing. You are a government sector, public sector, set the example. Then I will go to BD women. Then I will go to Anganwadi women. Then I will go to those areas where women are in large number, so that they can come up with the leadership. But you set the example. And the purpose was served, because our bank union leader agreed for a national convention of our women employees. It was held in 1995. And in that first ever convention, I could take promise there to be put up in the council, to put up in the executive, to put up in office bearer, to continue this convention, then bank-wise convention, then state-wise convention. I can today claim from 95 onwards to this 2005, there was a conference, ninth convention held in Gujarat, where I went. I can say thousands of women in the banking sector to be trained as very strong women who are participating not only just as member, now they are actively participating. So this kind, one example I am giving, that kind of example we followed in various sectors, because those who are earning also, have power also, can speak also, why they should not be trained into all these questions. So that we had done. Then we took up in BD sector, in Anganwadi, midday meal, and Asha worker. There we found the women are not in leadership, men are in leadership. So it took me decades to see to it that women are the main labor force there. Then they have also to be part of leadership. So now 80%, 90% is women leadership, and men are to assist them in the leadership part. Then the question came, how to make women leaders. They can't sit long hours in the evenings, they rush back to their homes. We said they are not irresponsible. They rush back to home, they have to attend to children, they have to attend to the old people over there. It's not irresponsible behavior. It is rather responsible behavior by them. They are worried about whomsoever they are supposed to take care. You design different responsibility for them. Take them into leadership. Take work during working hours. Take communication work from them. Take drafting work from them. Charter of demand making work from them. So they can be part of leadership, but give them different responsibility, not only sitting in the late night meetings. This is how. So in every field, to make spaces for women, you have to give ideas. You have to design it also. In one of the meeting, many women came for the meeting in a trade union office. So they brought their children with them. They were informal economy women. So those children are making noise, and the men are saying, "Why you brought these children? They are creating nuisance." Then I got angry. I said, "Will you say this thing when your children dance and make noises at home? You will not do it. These women don't have any child care facilities. They are bringing their children." So, as a trade union, if you cannot design a program to have a separate place, one person, man or a woman, to be designated, put some toys over there, they take care of children, and these women sit in the meeting. If you cannot do this thing, why are you asking for crutch facilities from employers? So I had to argue with my trade union leaders. And then in some places, they started following this example. So everywhere is battle is a very, very long battle. So in the trade unions, in the political parties, in the farmers movement, in different movements, everywhere new innovative methods of participation in women in the decision making process should be there. Then only the things really change also, and then they become defenders of their rights also. This is all I would like to say. If there will be any questions, I am ready to answer all those questions. I have plenty of examples with me, but this session is limited to for a particular time, and that's why Vibhuti ji, I will like to stop here by saying that we all, wherever we are, in whichever field we are, all of us have our responsibilities in those respective field. Nobody should say मेरे यहाँ ये नहीं हो सकता है. It has to be done in every field. We have to experiment and go ahead, learn from experiences from others, looking at the examples, sharing examples. Maybe I will also learn a lot from others if they will share their experiences, because life always goes on. It doesn't stop, and it should not stop. I stop here now talking at least. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Comrade Amarjeet. We have always held you in a high esteem, and your humility is really heart-touching. I just wanted to know that you have always come out as a very optimistic person. Under the extremely adverse circumstances, you don't lose your optimism. What makes you to be so optimistic that even under the such so many multifaceted challenges we are facing, what it is that keeps you going? Because your optimism is quite infectious. We would also like to be like you. Yeah. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, Vibhuti ji, it is because I happen to be daughter of a freedom fighter. And from childhood, I could know a lot about freedom movement. And that encouraged me to read about the real histories, the battles, the struggles uh, from the previous century to the further previous century, and then even before. And then also I got those opportunities to do the things because of my father not objecting to anything. Whatever I wanted to do, I was allowed to do. But when first I used to feel these problems of women are only in India. We are backward. So it is only here. Our society is like this. But when I went abroad as a student leader to attend international seminars and international meetings, everywhere I would want to explore, to understand to know. Small things I will try to know, their culture, their behavior, whatever is going on. Then only I understood that no, it is a universal problem as far as women is concerned. I was a physics student in my school, so I joined BSc Physics. So I had, after that, I did MSc Physics. Law I did only after MSc. But being a physics student in the school level, physics became my background. So that materialism, study of materialism made me to understand that things are always dynamic, that things change. Things change in the positive side, but they also revert back. But then you have to push it once again in that direction. So that I did not look at science just as a kitabon ki ratta panthi. I looked at science from really practicing science, it should be. So that made me sort of a confident. From my school days itself, I started finding opposition, a girl becoming activist. I led one first strike in my school. I was 10th standard student. It was a girls' school, and our principal imposed every day 2 exams and no leave in between. So there was so much resentment. Even though I used to stand first in my class in zone and sometimes in Delhi also, but I was head girl of the school. So I had to take these decision along with my monitors. So we took the decision to boycott exam and to press for change in the examination schedule, because that was the third semester sort of exams, then the fourth was final, and these exams results were also supposed to be counted in the final exams. So we went for strike, and that strike at such a young age, going for that and not claiming it to be myself being leader, telling everybody that it is our collective decision, nobody is leader here, we all are leaders. But there I found how the mob frenzy happens. There I found how whole mohalla people went to my mother and told, your daughter is doing what she is not supposed to do. The police is going to come, you please go there. My mother said, I will not go, I have trust in her. So that from morning till evening, that agitation weapon, police came, everything. Ultimately we were victorious. By the evening we were victorious when the education officers came and whole schedule in presence of principal was changed and all. That gave me confidence that if you want to do something, first of all, remember, never lose faith in yourself. Number two, you alone can't do anything, have people with you. Number three, insist and fight. And number four, even if you lose, in the next step you may go forward. So this is how my experience came. And then later on, when I came to university, there were no girls in the students politics, and I was among the first 3 4 girls who wanted to do politics, and we were being advised not to do it. Boys were also talking all nonsense and stupid things about us, and we said we will do it. If Rani Jhansi could fight, if Aruna could unfurl the flag for Quit India movement, if Durga Bhabi could help Bhagat Singh and his colleagues, why can't we? If Sarojini Naidu walked along with Gandhi and so many women walked along for Dandi March, why can't we do? They did so many decades ago. We are independent India. Our constitution gives us equality. So we drew strength from our constitution. We drew strength from our history. We drew strength from the movements, the struggles, and we learned through that there were setbacks also, but then there was resurgence, then there was again fighting, and step by step you may move forward. That's why in the adverse situation also, not to lose faith. That kind of thing came in my whole process. It was my learning experience, and in that learning experience, the day we lose hope and the day we lose confidence, our battle is already lost. The day we remain firm, first thing, we should believe in what we are saying. And if we know this is the truth, then we have to stand by truth. The day we stop standing by the truth, then we are already dead. So that is what I learned from the great writers, even including Munshi Premchand. Munshi Premchand was asked, a few of you go stand in there and protest over there. What is there? He says, at least we are able to tell that we are live. Aaj bhi hum zinda hai, and we can raise our voice. So those things from different countries I could study. Then I studied Marx and Engels deeply. I studied about Russian Revolution. I studied about our underground revolutions. I studied about Chittagong Armory case, where the young girls were participants in the freedom movement in that guerrilla warfare. All that strengthened me, I should say. I got energy from there. And then the trade union movement gave me a lot. Learning from trade union movement, from the working class movement, is a real confidence giving sort of a thing. That's why I say trade unions are very, very empowering for women. When we talk of empowerment, they should be unionized, and then they should be encouraged to become leaders in their own level and be part of, along with men, in the part of leadership, and push their way. So that is how I do, Vibhuti ji.
Yeah.
And then come friends like you, keep encouraging us that we are doing some good work.
The most befitting message you have given to so many participants. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You've definitely set the tone for the program for all of us, and I see a lot of messages in the chats. Everybody's so encouraged and fired up after your talk. My only request is, if we have you with us for the end of the session, we'd like to take all the questions towards the end, and we'd like to start with Anuja ma'am's lecture, if it is okay with you.
Yes, yes, please, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And with that, it is my honor to now invite Ms. Anuja Gulati ji for our next session on strategies for transformative change for gender equality. We welcome you, ma'am. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. I would like to begin by thanking IMPRI and Vibhuti ji for having invited me to be with all of you this evening. It's been truly inspiring listening to Amarjeet madam. Ma'am, your efforts for creating egalitarian workplaces is truly commendable. Before I begin, I'd like to greet all of you as we commemorate the International Women's Day, a day when we honor and celebrate the achievements, resilience, and determination of women. Friends, the UN theme for this year's International Women's Day is rights, equality, empowerment, and accelerating action towards equality is the other theme. I think this resonates very well with the theme that's been given to me, strategies for transformative change for gender equality. But let me begin after that really inspiring session, I'm going to have a session which is more experience sharing. So let me just begin by sharing my presentation with you. Can colleagues see the presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. I thought, I'll begin by telling you a little about UNFPA, United Nations Population Fund, the organization I represent. UNFPA is the Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency of the United Nations. Our work is guided by the principles of a human rights-based approach, gender empowerment, equality, and the imperative that no one is left behind. We work towards achieving, three transformative results that we call, which promise to change the world for every individual by 2030. One of them is an ending unmet need for family planning, ending preventable maternal deaths, and ending gender-based violence and harmful practices like gender-biased sex selection, like child marriage that Amarjeet madam talked so much about. UNFPA's work on gender and rights over the past couple of decades has foregrounded the fact that undervaluing of women and girls is the key driver and often the root cause, for discrimination, which drives practices like violence, gender-based violence, gender-biased sex selection, child marriage. Our experiences have revealed that when we invest in enhancing the value of women and girls and empowering them, we can bring about transformative and sustainable change. So before we really talk of, what UNFPA did or the strategies that UNFPA adopted for transformative change, I'll just take a minute to talk of what transformative change is. Transformative change for gender equality broadly means change that addresses the structural causes of gender inequality. This change actually goes beyond the symptoms of gender inequality to address social norms, practices, behaviors, systems that promote inequality. And gender transformative change addresses power imbalances, which leads to lasting change. And because it leads to lasting change, it promotes equitable outcomes for women and girls and shared control of resources and decision making. Now, if you were to look at strategies, I just thought I'll share a continuum of strategies for gender transformation. Strategies can be unequal, wherein they reinforce gender inequalities. There are certain examples, and we can have several examples, but I see we're already a little behind schedule, so I'm not going to get into the examples. They could be gender blind, which is that they ignore, norms, discrimination, and inequality. Or they could be gender aware, wherein they acknowledge but do not address gender inequalities. And then there are gender responsive and gender transformative strategies. Gender responsive strategies are those which acknowledge and consider the specific needs of men, women, and gender diverse individuals. And gender transformative strategies are those that address, like I said, the structural causes of inequality and work towards transforming discriminatory norms, power imbalance, so that's what is transformative change. How is it that we at UNFPA, what is it that we at UNFPA did for transforming gender relations, gender norms, which are discriminatory, and systems that promote inequality? We designed programs using a socio-ecological model that attempted to tackle discriminatory norms at the individual, family, and community level on the one hand, and we worked towards making systems and policies more responsive on the other hand. So a socio-ecological model is one which combines, empowerment and understanding of women's rights. It also works towards strengthening systems and improved availability of services and, legal reforms and policy changes for gender responsiveness. And it emphasizes the need for multi-sectoral interventions across all these. So what is it we did at the individual and family level, or what is it that we did to empower women and girls and shape family level perceptions regarding decisions about investments in the development and well-being of women and girls? Our first objective was to see how is it that we can empower adolescent girls by building their social, health, and economic assets so that they could fulfill their aspirations and exercise agency to make informed and responsible choices in relation to their health and well-being and demonstrate leadership roles in the community. These were aspects we realized where girls faced several restrictions. So what did we do? What were the strategies that we adopted? First was to work with families to create an enabling environment for empowering girls. How we did this? We did this by discussions and debates around normative frameworks that provide women and girls lesser access to opportunities, skills, resources, and how, improved access. We try to drive home the fact that how improved access can enable girls to fulfill their potential. We also equipped girls with information on their physical, sexual, and reproductive health and linked them to appropriate services so that they had the right to bodily autonomy and could make critical decisions about themselves, about their health, about their lives. The third and a very important strategy we used was to improve the skill base of adolescent girls. And we did this by enhancing their life skills and by linking them to vocational skills. Now, linking them to vocational skills helped to build confidence of these girls to make informed choices and have access to resources, especially because they had access to gainful employment. This strategy led to a change in the family level perception regarding the value of women and girls, and very interesting thing happened was that after we trained the first cohort of girls, who were linked to vocational training, who had access to gainful employment, we saw that there was a snowballing impact within communities, and several families actually started allowing their girls to go in for gainful employment, something that was very difficult in communities. And I'll share a few examples with you. And these are testimonies for girls, where we linked girls to vocational skills. Uh, we linked girls to both non-traditional and traditional skills. Some of the non-traditional skills involved, teaching them driving, photography, repairing of motorcycles, repairing of mobiles, banner printing, etc. And I'm just sharing a testimony of a girl here. She said that as part of the program, and this was a program that we undertook in B district of Maharashtra. She said, I learned to drive, and I now drive a matador and take children to school. Parents tell me that they feel very secure in sending their daughters with a lady driver. I am now independent, and this has given me the ability to negotiate against being married off early. So how access to gainful employment helped to improve, family level perceptions around women and girls, and how, they were able to negotiate life-changing decisions for themselves. In addition to life skills and vocational skills, we also tried to work towards improving functional literacy of girls so that we could remove inhibitions related to accessing services. And we took girls to banks, to courts, to police stations, panchayat offices, all of that. And we had several girls who said that, they have been the inhibitions they had in terms of accessing these places, say a police station, these inhibitions have been overcome. Just also, in addition to this, we created awareness on the rights and entitlements of girls. Talk to them about what their rights are, about laws. And here's another testimony where, we have this 18-year-old girl who says, we had such a great time. We talked of rights, we rode them on kites, we flew them, we sang, we danced without any inhibitions. It was one of the best days of our lives. Even for them to step out of their homes, to have an environment where they can talk about their rights, where they can, sing, where they can dance, where they can celebrate being themselves, was a huge thing. Our second aspect was to work with men and boys to address discriminatory norms. And how did we do this? We did this by addressing discriminatory behavior at the family level related to parenting, partner responsibilities, and decision-making. And we also worked on improving the knowledge, attitude, and behavior of men and boys on issues related to gender equality and violence against women. And we will see, as I move to impact on, the kind of impact this had. I mean, I can only say that, the changes that we saw in men and boys really transcended the boundaries of the home. And in Project Geographies, where we had this program called Samajdar Jodidar, we saw that men actually started working towards creating safe spaces for women. They started talking about education for girls. They started talking about safety for girls in public spaces. Our third work was with the media and communication to portray men and women, boys and girls in gender diverse roles. Recognizing the fact that media and communications, like Amarjeet madam also mentioned, we need to bring about changes in storytelling and poetry. We realize that media and communications can play a very critical role in shaping popular perceptions on gender roles and identities and address discriminatory practices. UNFPA supported an NGO called Population First to initiate work with the media to tackle discriminatory norms, like I said, to portray men, women, boys, and girls in gender diverse roles, to challenge stereotypes, and to encourage communication personnel to view all their narratives through a gender lens. And when we talk of all narratives, any small story, how is it that a gender perspective can be integrated into it? Even the story of a woman who was run down by a truck at 4 a.m. in the morning while crossing the road could just be a small story of one woman being run down by a truck, or it could be a story on why was she crossing the road, because she did not have access to toilets and she was trying to access toilets, when she was run down by a truck. So how is it that a gender perspective could be integrated? How is it that, we could really work on portraying men, women in diverse roles? And here we had, a few strategies. Our first strategy was to introduce or institute reward mechanisms to facilitate positive efforts in the media to bring the issue of gender inequality into public discourse. The institution of awards actually made communication professionals conscious of their gender biases, and over time made gender a core journalistic value. Our second strategy was the organization of gender media workshops. And these workshops really helped media persons to explore the deep-rooted biases that they themselves had and how these biases got reflected in communication. Another strategy was to have continuous dialogue with media leaders and regulatory bodies so that we could get their buy-in to promote gender-sensitive content. I mean, what sells is not sensitivity. What sells is sensationalism. So this dialogue with media leaders and regulatory bodies was extremely important, to get their buy-in to have gender-sensitive content. And we had another strategy where we really encouraged young media people as fellows. We encouraged them to do stories around gender issues, linked them to mentors, who were industry leaders, so that they could, write stories on gender, so that we could improve the focus on gender issues within media. All these strategies were actually designed keeping in fact the mind that media and communication, especially advertising, where we did extensive work, really influences behaviors and aspirations in many subtle and subliminal ways. What was the impact of all this work? Like I said, there was improved access of girls to health, nutrition, and education. Improved access to skills helped improve autonomy and agency of women and girls. And here again, let me share with you a very, very interesting example. This is again from, Maharashtra. This is the story of a girl who was 15, and she was married off when she was 15 to a man who was 28 years old. Her parents, and for those of you who are aware about Maharashtra, you would know that Beed, is a block which is drought prone. And most couples from Beed actually go to, the neighboring districts of Kolhapur, Satara, Sangli for sugarcane cutting. And when her parents were leaving, they wanted to leave her with her uncle, who refused to keep her because she was, she always spoke her mind. So she was married off. As soon as she was married, she started facing violence at the hands of her husband and in-laws. And she was extremely fed up. And then when she got to know about the project, she was linked to the program. And as part of the program, she was linked to, get training as a nurse. She now, after almost 7 years of the program, is working in a hospital in Pune, is earning 30,000 rupees. She says she's very happy that she's been able to leave her abusive husband. She says she feels very secure about her future and is relieved that she need not worry about restrictions on her behavior and on her movement. So how access to skills, life skills and vocational skills can really help women exercise their autonomy and agency and lead lives of well-being. I told you, working with men and boys really showed a visible shift towards positive masculinity and how we could address discriminatory norms at the family level by promoting, sharing of gender roles and responsibilities. And here again, this is an example from Thane, from the slum communities of Thane. And this boy says that after attending the meetings, I asked my younger sister for the first time if she was ever teased or harassed when she was outside the home. Well, he then said many things, but he says that I now make an attempt to share her work so that she gets time to study. So this, and like I mentioned, changes really transcended beyond the boundaries of the home. How and we call the program Samajhdar Jodidar, how these partners actually started supporting their women to go out of homes, to work there, how these boys really had a change. They took oaths to say that we will not marry girls who are below 18. We will ourselves not get married below the age of 21. So, some very interesting things. Also, like I said, the work with the media. And I'll give you examples of certain advertisements. Creative professionals actually started challenging social norms and portraying women, men, boys, girls, and gender diverse roles. We have several advertisements now, and advertisements that actually used stereotypes to create brands started breaking those stereotypes to promote gender sensitivity. We have advertisements where the man says he's ready to take on the name of the woman, the Havells ad. Or we have an advertisement, the Raymond's ad, where the husband agrees to stay at home for childcare. Or we have ads where families are ready to save for their daughter's education and not for her marriage. We also have advertisements where communities and families are supporting individuals having alternate sexual orientations and gender identities. The Starbucks ad, for example. And I have some example also for you going forward, but also to say that after our consistent work with the media, which was done through Population First, and 10 years of the Nirbhaya incident, madam, that you also talked about, we saw that reporting on violence and rape had shown quite a bit of change. Stories around sexual assault and rape were more balanced, they were better researched, they maintained confidentiality. There are a lot of breaches, but a large number of stories, and they were written from the perspective of the survivor. The survivor was not slandered. You might remember the way Arushi was slandered, I have some examples. Vibhuti ji, if you permit me, can I show these ads?
Please go ahead, show the ads.
क्या बात है गुरदीप पाजी, है बड़े जोर शोर से बिक रही है आपकी मिठाइयाँ। शू तिशा है। ये तो सब बच्चों की मेहनत है जी। वो इंटरनेट नहीं होता, इंटरनेट, हाँ हाँ हाँ, उस पे डाल दिया बिजनेस को, बस। बड़े होनहार हो गए आपके बेटे। बेटे नहीं जी, बेटियां। क्यों तिशा? गुरदीप सिंह एंड डॉटर्स चंगा है। कामयाबी ना लड़का देखती है ना लड़की, कामयाबी सिर्फ सोच देखती है। स्टार प्लस।
Another advertisement. This is one that I really love.
बापू कहते हैं बच्चे जो देखते हैं उसी से सीखते हैं। जुग जुग जिया, यहाँ के तौर तरीके ही देख लो। जुग जुग जिया सुलाला नावा भवन वाके भाग जागल हो। लड़के क्या कर सकते हैं और लड़कियां क्या नहीं, ये तो यहाँ दिख ही जाता है। पिताजी का पेशा ही ले लो, शायद लड़कों को विरासत में मिलता है। कि लड़कियों को कुछ नहीं मिलता, मैंने देखा है, उन्हें भी मिलता है। गृहस्थी, रसोई, घर की जिम्मेदारी। नाची नाची गावेली बहिनिया ललन के खेलावेली हो। जुग जुग जिया सुलाना। क्यों काका, दाढ़ी बना दूं? हाँ हाँ। बापू, ये लड़की होके उस तरह चलाएगी?
अरे बेटा, उस तरह को क्या पता कि चलाए वाला लड़का है या लड़की? क्यों? चल बेटा, फटाफट दाढ़ी बना। हाँ। जी।
Stop it there. But you know how brilliantly media and communications can really address discriminatory norms. And we know that, an ad that's played over a minute, repeatedly can really bring about mindset change more than long, sessions can. Moving from the individual and family level interventions to community level interventions. Here, UNFPA really worked towards challenging discriminatory social norms and practices by working with Panchayati Raj institutions, both the elected representatives and Panchayati Raj functionaries. So what were the strategies we adopted that have become transformative? One was building capacities of Panchayat the Raj institutions to create an enabling environment for for women and girls and to mainstream gender both in governance and service provision. Working towards ensuring that the whole practice of sarpanch patis, mukhya patis really gets addressed. And how is it that elected representatives can really understand the needs and concerns of women and have them integrated as part of the village development plans, what we call the Gram Panchayat development plans. The other thing was to build capacities of panchayats on creation of women and girl friendly panchayats. Now, where did this concept come from? India is probably the first country that made an effort to localize the sustainable development goals. The 17 sustainable development goals were made into 9 themes, and each theme, in order to follow an all of government approach, was given to various government departments. And theme 9 was on creating women and girl friendly panchayats. So UNFPA initiated a pilot in 60 gram panchayats of Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan on creating women and girl-friendly panchayats. And it is so encouraging for me to tell you here that this activity or this intervention was taken up by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, who asked every district in the country to have at least one gram panchayat to take the sankalp to become a woman and girl friendly panchayats. And as we are speaking today, 770 plus 60, 830 gram panchayats are taking the sankalp that they will work towards empowering women and girls in their gram panchayats. Now, what's been the impact of this, and we can share with you the impact from our work in the 2 states where we initiated this work quite some time back. One was that, the work with panchayats ensured that needs and concerns of women got reflected, like I said, in the Gram Panchayat development plans. Mahila Sabhas began to be organized before every Gram Sabha. Women's concerns, development needs started being listed. They were then taken to the Gram Sabha. They were integrated as part of the Gram Sabha as costed, low cost, no cost activities. And then there was a review on this. Also, there was supporting of interventions to empower women and girls. And here I'll give you an example of, Chandwada Gram Panchayat, which is in Barabanki district of Uttar Pradesh. This Gram Panchayat saw a very high dropout rate of girls from schools. And here the Sarpanch initiated a cycle bank for girls to commute to school. In addition to that, she said, if there is a problem of safety in public spaces, she encouraged girls to to undertake safety audits. They started mapping areas where girls felt unsafe, either because there was no lighting there, or because, there were groups of men that were there, or because a place was completely desolate. And after this, Based on the findings of safety audit, these issues were integrated in the Gram Panchayat development plan. So safe and unsafe spaces were mapped and efforts were made to ensure compliance. And another testimony of a standard 10 student who said that it has changed mindsets of our families who now support our education because, girls together ride a bicycle to school. Also, we realized that when we worked with panchayats on creating women and girl-friendly panchayats, they were keen to address gender-based violence and also look at harmful practices, whether it was child marriage, whether it was gender bias, sex selection, dowry, witch hunting, so all these practices. And instead of having a standardized approach, they really looked at addressing the local underlying factors which led to harmful practices. And I'll give you an example here again, from Piplantri Gram Panchayat, which is in Rajsamand district of Rajasthan. This district was a drought-prone district, and the Sarpanch here said that we will celebrate the birth of every girl child, and we will do this by planting about 111 saplings at the birth of every girl child. In addition to this, parents in this Gram Panchayat were encouraged to sign affidavits that they will not marry off their daughters before 18 and will ensure that they complete their schooling. Also, a fixed deposit was opened in the name of every girl, and the money could be accessed for higher education. So this whole thing of financial incentive schemes here we saw was delinked from sterilization, was delinked from the institution of marriage. It was for higher education. So this also had a ripple effect. In addition to celebrating the birth of daughters, investing in daughters' well-being, the village now has about 3.5 lakh trees, and the local self-help group women make and sell local produce manufactured from the trees grown in the area. I have another example from Orissa, which is another state where UNFPA has a presence. This is the example of Mudgadia Gram Panchayat from Navagarh district of Orissa, where, the prevalence of child marriage was very high. In order to address this, the panchayat took up efforts to create awareness on rights and entitlements of women and girls. They also promoted economic empowerment by linking women to Mission Shakti, the SHGs, for skill training and bank linkages. And they undertook several campaigns to create awareness on illegality of early forced and child marriage. And in doing so, they have really been able to bring down dramatically the prevalence of child marriage. They call themselves Bal Vivah Mukt Gram Panchayat today. So this is what we've done at the community level. Moving on to system strengthening. What is it that we did, and what was it that, or what were the strategies that we adopted? We wanted to strengthen systems, whether it was health, women and child development, law and judiciary. The strategies we used was, one, generating evidence. Very, very important. If you have to strengthen systems, you have to have evidence to strengthen sectoral response and ensure that service providers and systems are sensitive to the diverse needs of women and girls. And I'll give you a few examples as we move to the impact. The second thing we did was to build capacities of service providers to ensure that systems are sensitive to the diverse needs of women and girls and persons with alternate sexual orientations and gender identities. And we also did advocacy for integrating gender and rights across sectors, both medical, and we are currently working on trying to integrate gender as part of the legal curriculum. Just a moment. Yeah. Talking of the impact, like I told you, we generated evidence to strengthen sectoral response. One example is, very recently, we conducted a study on a coordinated response to gender-based violence survivors through the health department and through one-stop centers. And the study was done in the 4 states where UNFPA has a presence: Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Orissa, and Rajasthan. And the findings of the study helped to build capacities of officials for a comprehensive response by bringing them together, training them together, trying to identify where the loopholes were. It has also gone a long way in trying to set systems. I'm saying set systems. We still have not been able to greatly improve referral linkages, but set systems to improve referral linkages. I'll give you another example. A few years back, we conducted studies to understand how gender and rights issues were integrated in family planning programs. And we did this in Rajasthan, we did this in Maharashtra. And based on the findings of the study, we were able to sensitize and build capacities of health service providers on issues of dignity, confidentiality, consent. When should consent be taken? I mean, several places we found that consent was taken during active labor when a woman is not in a position to give consent for use of a contraception. So when should consent be taken? On provision of services, non-discriminatory manner, privacy. So all of this, we did. Also, we have engaged extensively in building capacities of medical professionals on medico-legal care of survivors of sexual violence based on the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare's guidelines and protocols for this purpose. The main purpose here was one, to ensure that survivors are not re-victimized. Amarjeet madam, these guidelines were put together after the Nirbhaya incident and were released in 2014. But we realized that until now, it's only about 8 to 10 states that are actually using these guidelines. So we've done a lot of effort, or we've taken a lot of effort to build capacities on the use of these guidelines, wherein we drive home the fact that practices which re-victimize survivors, like the two-finger test, like comment on injuries, should not be undertaken. We've also tried to ensure that every time evidence is corroborated with history. I mean, these are just small things out of the guidelines that I'm saying, but very, very critical things. And also, how is it that services can be adapted to the needs of marginalized and vulnerable groups, whether it's children, whether it's sex workers, whether it is the LGBTQI community or persons with alternate sexual orientations, gender identities, whether it's religious minorities. So this is something that we've been doing. Another program that I told you we supported, and this was through a partner, Sehat, was integrating gender in the medical curriculum for Maharashtra. This program, we initiated this program because we realized that medicine is very, very heavily biomedical. There are no discussions of social and cultural aspects that impact women's health. Also, we realize that there are several explicit and implicit examples of gender discrimination in medical textbooks. We further realized that violence, which is a very, very critical health issue, is not recognized as, or was not recognized as, a health issue. It was recognized as an issue to be dealt with by law enforcement agencies. Whereas a woman who's faced violence, probably the first entry point is and a very non-stigmatizing entry point is the hospital or a health setup. We also realize that, and we know that there's been a steep decline in sex ratios. Today, we have only 907 girls being born for every 1,000 boys. Every year, 4.6 lakh girls are missing in our country because of the practice of gender-biased sex selection. This happens in the confines of the doctor-client relationship, and this was an issue which was not covered in medical textbooks, and also sex disaggregated disease data was not available. So we worked, to integrate gender in medical curriculum, and this resulted in several changes in clinical practices. And here I'll give you an example of how Government Medical College in Aurangabad really changed their medical practices, made their medical practices more evidence-based. They introduced the concept of respectful maternity care, having a person to support the pregnant woman, ensuring that a pregnant woman can move about, just before labor, ensuring that a pregnant woman can deliver in a position that she feels most comfortable delivering in, and several other issues. Also, there were changes in terms of developing protocols for identifying signs and symptoms of violence during antenatal care in this hospital. There was a separate room for examination of cases of sexual assault that they put there, in order to ensure privacy, confidentiality, and like I said, they were amongst the pioneers to start using the protocol for medical legal care of survivors of sexual violence. Lastly, what is it that we did at the policy level? We wanted to ensure gender responsive laws, policies, and programs. And our broad strategies were to strengthen implementation of laws around gender equality through capacity building of a range of stakeholders. And we engaged in building capacities of implementing authorities, judicial officers, prosecutors. We also engaged in evidence-based policy advocacy on addressing discriminatory provisions in law. Amarjeet, madam, you raised some discriminatory provisions, and we undertook a study. This is dated, but a very interesting study on, how laws promote son preference and discrimination. So we looked at laws that inadvertently advance son preference and discrimination, dowry. Laws that overtly propagate son preference. We looked at son preference and daughter unwantedness as mirror images. So land laws, inheritance laws, or laws that have not worked because of poor implementation. And directly, the law on addressing gender-biased sex selection, the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, and how there has been an absence of laws in certain areas leading to discrimination, in one is marital rape. So this was another thing we did. We also worked on strengthening partnerships and alliances, so that NGOs and CSOs could advocate for improved implementation of laws. And we tried to engage with advocacy for bridging data gaps in large-scale surveys. And I'll give you, some examples here. Where I said the capacity building of implementing authorities and judicial officers went a long way in creating a deeper understanding on issues of gender justice, discriminatory practices. And I can give you an example. In Maharashtra alone, around gender-biased sex selection and the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act, we sensitized about 3,500 judicial officers across all levels, from JMFC above, and about 1,000 prosecutors. And we saw a huge increase in convictions at that point of time. We also saw that when they understood when they were sensitized about the social and cultural aspects of issues like gender-biased sex selection, they pronounced judgments which were more, or which upheld laws in letter and spirit. I mentioned we worked on mobilizing civil society, and we created a coalition, to advocate for gender equality by addressing patriarchy and strengthening implementation of laws. About 14 years back, we started, a coalition called Girls Count. We supported them, and now they are independent. It's now a coalition of about 320 CSOs and NGOs who have tried to broad base the work on gender-biased sex selection. They advocate independently with their states for improved implementation of the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act. They work around various aspects of addressing patriarchy. And we integrated, like I said, in large-scale surveys we identified data gaps, and we advocated and had questions on women's ownership of land and property, in NFHS 4 included, that's the National Family Health Survey, and on hysterectomy, questions included in NFHS 5. So that's where we were in terms of policy level advocacy. Well, I'll just say, try and sum up by saying that transformative change can be brought about by addressing autonomy or working on improving women's access to information services, by improving women's ability to make decisions about themselves, about their health, about their lives. 2 assets: improving women's access to land, housing, property rights, credit, decent work and pay, and advocacy for women-led development through legal reforms and policy interventions. I will also add another A here, which is aging, or the anxieties around aging, which make people prefer sons over daughters, and how these anxieties around aging can be addressed by ensuring that social protection schemes reach the elderly, the poor. So I'll just sum up here, with a small little quote from our Executive Director, Dr. Natalia Canham, UNFPA Executive Director and Under Secretary General, where she said that only by investing in societal, economic, and political inclusion of women and girls will we be able to strengthen our social fabric and create something truly beautiful, a future that works for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, and thank you for sharing your insights with us and for giving us a thought-provoking discussion. And I now invite all the panelists to they can share their remarks, or if they have some cross questions from Anuja ma'am, they can please go ahead. Yes, please.
Professor Indira, you go first this time.
Thank you so much. I could hear the parts of this, and it is so illuminating. She spoke about the activism, and Professor Anuja spoke about the policy perspective and how change can take place through the policy changes and interventions, and so many good things are taking place, and we need to scale it up. That is where actually the next part could be. So many more places, these kind of changes should be taking place. And today morning when I attended some 500 women who are in the interior places of Karnataka. So what I observed is the celebration of International Women's Day is a really good thing. See, it is not for the sake of celebration, but it is giving an opportunity for the women to come together and they think. They are from different SHGs, and they are telling like how we have been celebrating like Children's Day, Independence Day, and we are also celebrating International Women's Day. And we get an opportunity to listen to so many of my sisters, and how they are doing it. So I don't have any questions. Now I would ask Vibhuti, if I get any question, I would get back. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Dr. Anuja Gulati, you're very, very inspiring. And as Dr. Indira said, it's an illuminating lecture. But do you see any threats in the current context where American president has told UN not to focus on gender equality and DIE, diversity, inclusion, and empowerment? Do you think it is going to change the priority of UNFPA?
Ma'am, definitely we may have some fund cuts, but I think, we have a vision, and our vision is to work for women and girls, and we will strongly stand by that vision. I don't think we will have any change in our in our work, and I think we will continue to pursue what we have been working on. And like I mentioned, we have 3 transformative goals, all of which are around the well-being and dignity of women. Zero unmet need for family planning, zero maternal deaths, and zero gender-based violence and harmful practices. The third one, very, very critical to ensure women live lives of dignity and well-being, and we stand by these goals.
There are many questions, both in the chat box as well as in the...
Thank you, ma'am. Amarjeet, ma'am, would you like to say something?
Yes. I saw a question on the chat box. And with that question, the comments made are that French philosopher believed that women are not born with predetermined existence, but rather are shaped by the society they live in. Femininity is a social construct, not a biological or psychological difference between men and women. And then certain other things told in this context. Yes, in 19th century, there was a debate that the brain of women is smaller than men. So this was debated, and there were researches conducted, and then ultimately the medical fraternity said that there is no difference except the difference of sexual organs. Psychologically, there is no problem. It's the same thing. Their wants, their desires, their feeling of love, affection, of reaction, anything. So they are equal human beings. So this question was settled in 19th century itself. And then in 20th century, naturally, people saw that women can reach to any heights, including going to space as astronaut. So those questions are left behind. Men and women, they are equals. This is being understood by the society. But the issue is of patriarchal mindset. Now, there also, medically speaking, girl sex is stronger than the boys. Because the death rate when the child is born at 7 months is more for the boys than the girls. And if there is a malnutrition, the rate of deaths of boys is much more than the girls. So basically, even sexually also, when they are a female sex, they are very strong. So this is true that there is no difference, but the difference is made with the kind of whole setup is there. They try to tell women what are your role models and what you should do and what you should not do. So there I agree. And the latest statement by L&T chairperson, Larsen and Toubro. So what did he say? He said that you will have to look at your wife at home. As if the women are not working. Then you say the women will be looking at their husbands. So this is this thing. How even those who are elites and running businesses or becoming chairpersons or what and not, how the psyche works. So I wanted to say, as far as that is concerned.
That too for super exploitation. He wants people to work for
Yeah,
100 hours a week. 100
Yeah.
hours a week. It's inhumanly possible.
So talking of 90 hours of work. Now here I also want to add this thing that women suffer in the war and conflict situation maximum. Because you talked of peace and development. Of course, in development they are left behind. They don't have resources and all. Anuja in the end was saying that she should have autonomy, she should have assets, and there should be advocacy for her. That's true. So, but no, when we fought the battle for a widow to have right on the property of her husband, and we got that law also. But that law, how it was misused against Rup Kanwar. They wanted to get rid of Rup Kanwar so that she doesn't take her share of property which her husband had. So how the laws boomerang, but then we don't have to leave hope. We have to believe in that law. When Maternity Benefit Act was introduced, 90% of our women in the textile industry lost their jobs because those owners said, we will not give them leave and bring them back to our jobs. This is what they said. But we said the law is progressive. It is a short-term problem. No problem. In future, women will get maternity benefit. This is how we fought. That positivity has to continue. So advocacy has to be there for her. Even till today, you understand, woman is giving birth to the child from her womb. Even test tube baby has to come out of her womb only. Isn't it? So if IVF treatment and all that, it has to come out of her womb. But do you know that in our law, she is not the natural guardian of the children, girl or a boy? She is not the natural guardian even till today in India. She is given natural guardianship only if the husband has a psychiatric problem, gone mad or something, or has left and renounced the world, and for 7 years he is not available. So woman has no right on children as a natural guardian. She is giving natural birth to the child, but she is not the natural. So one has to even look at the laws. Existing laws are also discriminatory. So those laws changes are also required, and that is, I quote another example with the girls who did civil engineering. So I was asking those girls, you were civil engineer, why you are not doing that job? Why you have entered into this kind which any clerk could have done? They said, we waited for so many years, nobody is ready to give us jobs. सिविल इंजीनियर, अरे तुम लेबर के साथ डील करोगे, कैसे डील करोगे? यू कैन नॉट डू कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट, नाइट वर्क, डे वर्क, यू कैन डू. See, her parents have allowed her to do civil engineering. She has done with passion, and then you don't want to give. So this patriarch thought is a very, very damaging, and our gender index is we are losing in gender index worldwide. It's not only that we are losing in the sex ratio of girl child and the boy child, as the one of the slide which Anuja madam showed it, beginning from 81 till today, what is the ratio. Not only that, gender index, every year it appears and India is sliding down. So if you look at Trump, what he said, or the way he behaved, so you understand, after his speech, the way he was bullying everybody, after his speech, the lady priest said that you are wrong, what you are doing. Those are workers who are migrants, and you are talking of transgender, you are accusing them, you are not ready to recognize. It is reversing the whole thing, the American acceptance of diversities. You are going back. He told that priest, you are a fool. He abused that priest on her face. So you can understand, in front of camera, not only behind, in front of camera. So if that is happening there, within your own country, what is happening? Here also anybody comes and makes any statement, no accountability, you are going against law, you are going against constitution, nobody is there to check them. So it's, I think everything we have to do, the advocacy, training, all the thing, very, very rich experience Anuja ji was placing before us. So the movements, agitations, everything has to be in place. But very important is who are the policy makers? What is their mindset? It's very important. Women has to learn, and they have to come out of the time frame कि उनको कुछ वोट के टाइम पे कुछ पैसा मिल जाएगा तो वो वोट डालेंगे. They are becoming voters, and every political party is taking cognizance, but they will be considered as they will be afraid of them if they start thinking, if they start raising questions, if they really take up the gender issues, if they touch the laws, if they say we want employment first, don't give us doles, give us employment, give us proper wages, give us social security, let us have our dignity, we will decide, don't give us just doles. This kind of a thing will come out of movements, and that only will force the policy change and those who sit on the policy making. So I think that it was very useful session to listen to Madam Anuja also, and what Vibhuti ji spoke, and then Indira ji made her comments. So looking at that whole thing, I really worry about when the gender index is falling in India. So in India also some people are competing with Trump to make statements. It's not, there are people who compete with him also. So let's hope, we should always think positively. Things sliding down, of course, but we have to push back more. We have to fight more. We have to unite more. We have to energize more. That's the only way out. Collectively functioning and developing movements around in every sections of people.
Thank
but
you.
we
Prof.
also
Can I
have some
come in
happy
for a
spots.
minute? Can I come in
Yeah,
for a minute?
please.
Yeah, thank you. Ma'am, you were very right when you talked about the whole issue of guardianship. But, you know, I think we must also see, and you would know better than me, we have some very, very progressive judgments from the Supreme Court today. And I go back to, just for, you know, all our participants here, the Geeta Hariharan judgment, which said that it is the ability of parents to care for a child and not their gender that should determine who a guardian is. So we have some very interesting and progressive judgments currently that have come out. And I fully agree with you. And that's why we did the study to see how, you know, laws inadvertently or overtly promote son preference or daughter unwantedness. And you rightly said, and one very, very critical example, in spite of saying that the Hindu Succession Act, we've changed, we've made amendments, is how the self-acquired property in the absence of a woman's husband or children actually devolves upon the heirs of her husband. I mean, very, very critical. But going back to the question that, Madam, you were trying to respond to, yes, I fully agree with what's been written. You know, gender is a social construct. And, you know, basically, if you see all our institutions, whether it's media, whether it's religion, whether it's judicial, every single institution reinforces discriminatory norms. Why? Because we've internalized patriarchy. And like Madam said, what is required is really to look at and change mindsets of policymakers. Now, there's another question which I think is addressed to me, which says that Uttar Pradesh के ग्रामीण क्षेत्रों से संबंध रखता हूँ, और हमारे क्षेत्र में कई ऐसे गांव हैं जहाँ लड़कों के जन्म पर कोहर होता है। जी, बहुत से ऐसे गांव हैं जहाँ लड़के जन्म लेते हैं तो उनके जन्म पर खुशियां मनाई जाती हैं। और इसलिए मैंने आपको पिपलांत्री का उदाहरण दिया, जहाँ लड़की के जन्म पर खुशियां मनाई जाती हैं। द बर्थ ऑफ डॉटर्स इज सेलिब्रेटेड। और अगर हम पंचायतों के स्तर पर, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया, अगर हम पंचायतों को बोलें कि वो महिला और बालिका हितैषी पंचायतें बनाएं, और वो शुरुआत एक लाइफ स्किल, एक लाइफ साइकिल अप्रोच से करें, बच्ची के जन्म से ही खुशियां मनाने लगे। जब वो किशोर अवस्था में हो तो किस तरीके से इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज मिले, स्वास्थ्य की, पोषण की, शिक्षा की, यू नो, किस तरीके से शादी डिले हो, जब वो प्रजनन अवस्था में होती हैं तो किस तरीके से उनको स्वास्थ्य सेवाएं मिले, आरोग्य सेवाओं तक उनकी पहुंच हो, जानकारी हो, और जब बुजुर्ग अवस्था में हो तो उनके और क्या जरूरतें हैं, यू नो, चाहे वो जरूरत हो आरोग्य या स्वास्थ्य की, चाहे वो इकोनॉमिक एक्सेस की जरूरत हो, क्योंकि बहुत सी बुजुर्ग महिला कमाती नहीं है, या सोशल आइसोलेशन की हो कि वो अकेली रहती हैं, तो किस तरीके से पंचायत के स्तर पे ये एड्रेस किया जाता है। और मैं आपको बताऊं, हमारी बहुत सी ऐसी पंचायतें हैं आज जहां थाली बजाकर, थाली पीटकर लड़कियों के जन्म को सेलिब्रेट किया जाता है। और आपको ये बताते हुए मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है कि हमने बहुत से सोहर गीतों को रीराइट किया है टू सेलिब्रेट द बर्थ ऑफ अ गर्ल चाइल्ड। और अगर आप चाहेंगे तो मैं विभूति जी के साथ इन गीतों को साझा कर सकती हूँ। ये जो हमारा कोalition जिसके बारे में मैंने जिक्र किया था, गर्ल्स काउंट, उसके जो कोalition पार्टनर्स हैं, उन्होंने इन सोहर गीतों को रीराइट किया है लड़कियों के जन्म को सेलिब्रेट करने को। एक सवाल और है, और अमरजीत मैडम आप भी बताइए, पर मेरे को जितनी समझ है मैं बताती हूँ। हाउ जेंडर बेस्ड इनइक्वालिटी इम्पैक्ट्स विमेन्स लाइवलीहुड अपॉर्चुनिटी। मुझे लगता है कि you know, if women have access to education, if they do not drop out, if they can complete their education, and I would say access to skills, both life skills and vocational skills, and we don't have to go very deep, we can try and determine कि किस तरीके की इंटरेस्ट है महिलाओं में। अगर हम 16-17 से वो वोकेशनल स्किल्स, जो रोजगार कौशल्य है, इफ वी कैन लिंक women and girls to vocational skills, ensure that they have you know, these skills, I think that is one thing. The other, very, very beautifully put by Amarjeet madam, was, you know, creating safe spaces, workspaces. जो हमारा अभी कायदा है, सेक्सुअल हैरासमेंट ऑफ विमेन एट वर्क प्लेस, प्रिवेंशन, प्रोहिबिशन, रिड्रेसल एक्ट, यू नो, रूपन देओल बजाज से लेके हमारी भंवरी देवी, पूरा मैडम ने बहुत अच्छे से उसके बारे में बताया, किस तरीके से इस कायदे का क्रियान्वयन सही तरीके से होना चाहिए ताकि महिलाओं और लड़कियों को कार्यस्थल पर लैंगिक उत्पीड़न का सामना ना करना पड़े. द थर्ड थिंग, वेरी वेरी क्रिटिकल, इज एड्रेसिंग डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी नॉर्म्स अराउंड मोबिलिटी. महिलाएं घर के बाहर नहीं जाएंगी, महिलाएं कैसे जाएंगी? सो create opportunities, create availability of transport so that women can access their workspaces. बहुत जरूरी है. और ये तभी होगा जब हम ग्रामीण स्तर पर, जहां महिलाएं हैं, वो काम पे जाना चाहती हैं, अपने गांव से दूर जाना चाहती हैं, पढ़ने के लिए हो, इसके काम के लिए हो, हाउ इज इट कि ट्रांसपोर्ट फैसिलिटी सेफ हो. और इसके साथ साथ अगर उनको रोज नहीं जाना है तो कैन वी क्रिएट, और मेरे को लगता है ये एक गैप है आज भी, वर्किंग विमेन्स हॉस्टल्स, ताकि महिलाएं वहां ठहर के काम कर सके. और मैं इसके ये इवन पढ़ाई के लिए, इवन शिक्षा के लिए मैं ये बोलूंगी कि रेसिडेंशियल स्कूल्स अगर हम बनाएं जहां एक्सेस हाई स्कूल्स का नहीं है, ताकि लड़कियां उन रेसिडेंशियल स्कूल्स में रहकर अपना हायर एजुकेशन कंप्लीट कर सके. तो मेरे ख्याल से ये चीजें अगर हम थोड़ा सा ध्यान रखेंगे और इंस्पायर करेंगे अपने इलेक्टेड रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स को, तो ये चीजें, ये छोटे छोटे बदलाव लाए जा सकते हैं. Over to you, madam.
Yeah, Miss Anuja Gulati from Bangladesh, Mr. Parvez Babul has asked for your PPT.
I'll surely share it with you, ma'am.
And he has also shared his email ID in the chat box.
Yeah, I've noted that down, ma'am. I've noted.
Yes, yeah. And other thing is from Fatima ji, how can we learn from other there is one more question she had asked. No? Fatima, that was in chat box. Saida Aisha Fatima, would you like to go ahead? Can you unmute and speak? Saida Aisha Fatima, are you there? She has written, what lessons can India learn from other countries that have made significant progress in achieving gender equality and women empowerment? And there are 2 hands are also raised, so they can also go ahead. Queenie Mahajan, that's one. Yeah.
Yes, Queenie ji, if you are here, please go ahead with your question first, and then we can pick up the chat box once.
I wanted to add something first and then ask my question. So, one of the aspects that we've actually missed in the discussion, which I have spoken about in my creative project also, is the right to dignity, women's dignity. Because that's absolutely missing, especially ever since social media platforms have come. Any woman for that matter, any actress, any regular person, whoever posts something, maybe a little exposing as their profile picture or even as their post, and if you go through the comment list, it's massive. Either it is massive body shaming, or it is they call the particular girl with different kinds of names. We all know those names. I wouldn't want to take that name particularly. So, right to women's dignity, I feel that that's the need of this hour, because everybody has got the right to speak and right to express, and it is of in an appropriate manner. People are emotionally harassed. People are emotionally and mentally harassed. So this is one thing which I wanted to add, that right to dignity should become a part of the fundamental rights under Article 21. It should be conclusive, it should be elaborate, so that different clauses are being covered with respect to right to dignity. Right to dignity of women, it's a very important right which should be added, I think, as early as possible, because so many common girls, common women are being mentally and emotionally harassed because of the free right available to comment on their posts. It's a free right. It's there is no curtailment to it. How many times can you report a particular comment? How many times can you report it to Facebook or social media team. It's little difficult, because I have seen either you become indifferent, you become absolutely rebellious, and you don't care what the world is speaking, or you have to report it. Either way, there is a clash of ideology. You have to become very, very strong mentally. But what about those women who are not mentally strong, who are not emotionally strong? We've seen in the past actors like Alia Bhatt, Sara Ali Khan, they've been harassed and they also break down. Like being in the industry, being very, very strong, having been come from supportive families. Their families are supportive of their character, but they also break down. So I think this is one aspect which should be addressed at the earliest, because the social media, digital media, we're living in the digital era. It's spreading like fire, and we don't know what consequences it can bring. So this is one thing I wanted to add. If any of the professors have anything to add on these lines, I'll be happy to know and understand what I'm trying to say better. And then I'll ask my second question. Then I'll ask my question.
Should I respond, Vibhuti ji?
Yes, please go.
2-3 things I want to say. First, Anuja ji talked about Geeta Haran case. Yes, Geeta fought for many, many years. Ultimately, she got justice. But then after that judgment, I went through the law again. And I went through the judgment of the also. I found that really it is necessary to amend that law and to make mother as a natural guardian, because Geeta Haran got justice because on many grounds she got it, but law still does not recognize women as a natural guardian. So
I'm
that's
fully
why I was
accept that. No saying no. But I just said there are some
a very good judgment. But after that Mathura case revived, then again we found in Suman case of Haryana, there was a reversal by Supreme Court. And in many judgments we are finding the judgments coming which are reverse to what the earlier judges had done, which had done good thing. From good thing it goes to bad. So, once I will say that those who sit in judgments also, what is their mindset also impacts a lot the kind of judgment is given. Another thing on this Sexual Harassment Prevention Act which is there, they have introduced clause 10, and there was no need to introduce clause 10. Clause 10 is actually to deter women from coming for complaints. So we are now fighting that if you made a law, a good law, but then why this clause 10 is, and Justice Verma didn't want that clause 10, but this anybody misusing law can be prosecuted criminally. So there was no need to put this special clause 10 into this act. So we find that even it becomes very important who are making laws and what the kind of this thing. So this law is good, but then this law becomes restrictive. The women are fearing to file it because they might be put behind by making if the things are manipulated and they are told that you made a wrong complaint. So that is also there. I wanted to mention about that thing. And then on the question of one person asked that don't you face any hate when you take these bold positions and all. There was one question in the chat box. This will come, no problem, don't worry. Even just now before I spoke, the young lady who was asking this question, right to dignity is there for women. Yes, our fundamental rights definitely give us. When they talk of right to dignity, they are talking of human being, and human being includes man and woman. It's how the society is trying to interpret who is human, a woman is human or not. So right to dignity is ensured by our constitution, but the question is if that constitution is getting implemented or not. So right to dignity, any woman to have their freedom of expression is our right in fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. But even that freedom of right of expression, free expression, right to dissent, to have your own viewpoint, to put forth without any fear, those viewpoints, that all is given under Indian Constitution. Question is, when you try to practice that, then there are others who don't believe in that Constitution, or they are with the patriarch mind, they don't want to respect the Constitution. They are not. So they come they come fully prepared to abuse such women who take positions. So don't worry about those positions. Once you take the position and you know the truth, you continue taking that position. It always happens. You see, I saw that picture, Mirch Masala, and that was real inspiration. In Mirch Masala, that Smita Patel, she is continuously resisting that man who wants to go enter and rape the woman or ask the woman to be brought to him. She keeps telling, and then a stage comes when she thinks that there is no fun in fighting, when that person comes with guns and all on the gate. But then what happens? It's the women around who were continuously watching her, listening to her, her assertions, she telling this is wrong, I will not allow, it's my body, it's my decision. All those women were getting influenced with her steadfast position. And when the critical situation came, she was little wavering because she was not knowing that all these women are fully standing with me. She got afraid. She said, okay, I give up. I don't want all of you to suffer because of me. But it was these women who take those mirch masala and put into the eyes of that man, and then that is how the film ends. So if those people who understand things and they stand on the correct positions, they keep fighting along with others, unite and fight, they keep doing it, ultimately it has an impact on the society. It does have. Ups and downs will keep coming, nothing to worry about that, this will happen. But those who believe in the truth, at least they should continue believing in the truth and continue to say that we will fight. What happens, we'll see, but we will fight for the truth. So that is how the things have to be taken. So right to dignity for men and women, everybody is there. So don't worry about that. We have to assert we have a right to dignity. We have not to say we don't have right to dignity. We have right to dignity. Constitution has given to equality. And Indian women who participated in the freedom movement, it is consequence of that, that we got equal franchise. As soon as India got independent, we had equal vote. Several societies in the Western world, the women had to fight for getting a right to vote. But we got it only because there was a recognition women were equal participants in the freedom movement. So it was that recognition. So we should take strength from our predecessors who fought, who got a lot for us, and it is the next generation who have to carry forward. And I have faith amongst youngsters. I have immense faith among youngsters, while knowing that many of the youth have been derailed and they are doing all abusive things, but it doesn't mean whole youth is spoiled. I have faith in youngsters who are really taking up it boldly and coming forward and moving ahead. I have faith in them.
Ma'am, can I ask my
Just
question?
come in, Queenie, Ms. Mahajan. You're very right in saying that technology facilitated GBV, whether it's trolling, hate speeches, or misogynistic comments, are becoming extremely popular, and they have several mental health consequences on women and girls. Yes, we are trying to put in place certain policies and laws for that. I think that is something that is coming up and will come up in the coming times very, very soon. But, this is something which is fairly new. I won't say really new, but yes, this is something that a lot more policies are required.
Yeah.
Also,
Ma'am, I have one.
I would
Sorry.
agree with you, Section 10, Section 14, and if you ask me about the act, whether it's conciliation, whether it's penalizing a woman for filing a false or malicious complaint, and also the quorum of 3 members are contentious issues under the Sexual Harassment Act. Very, very right. I couldn't agree more with you on those issues.
Yeah. Ma'am, can I ask my question now? All right. Ma'am, what about if there is dichotomy of ideology amongst women? Like if, suppose, let's say we are here 6 panelists and we are absolutely supportive of women's rights. But somewhere ideology may differ on some grounds. It's not necessary that our ideology will be absolutely same on all the aspects. So what about that? Like if suppose let's say Miss Amarjeet Kaur, I absolutely loved her enthusiasm, her point on being conscious in the mindset, which people don't understand. So she very correctly pinpointed some of the aspects which I personally relate to. So, but there can be a possibility in terms of ideology where probably I don't agree to certain aspects. I'll give an example. For example, when I was studying at JNU, I wasn't supporting any particular party at all. I was a neutral person, but I did support, let's say, Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar. I have been supporting him since 2011 when I learned my first Sudarshan Kriya from the Art of Living Foundation. So, there was some posters being put, and I personally saw that somebody had put a used chewing gum. So somebody ate a chewing gum and put a used chewing gum at the place of in between the eyebrows, where Miss Amarjeet Kaur has a beautiful bindi, to disrespect a fellow person who appears to be very progressive. At least he appears to be progressive. I wouldn't go into other details. And one of the days, another incident happened that there was a whole protest being organized by a lot of parties together. And that particular day, only one particular day, I wasn't really convinced with the reason they were standing up, like they were being collected for the protest. So it was only one day where I wasn't convinced. So I did not want to protest. I probably wanted to go to the hostel and just rest, or probably go to the library and read. So one of the fellow classmates comes up to me that you're not protesting. I was like, yeah, I don't feel the need to. I want to rest because I don't feel the need. I don't probably even align with the reason. And the revert I got back was, you don't you listen to your teachers? Don't you obey your teachers? Because your teachers have told you to protest, so don't you obey your teachers? And I was shocked because, I mean, JNU is one institution which is supposed to, and which in fact does hold freedom of expression to a great, great height. It's the pillar. But despite all those factors, being a part of JNU, I saw a different reality of JNU. If we had more students like Miss Amarjeet Kaur, who are very enthusiastic, who are clear about their ideology, who are clear about their purpose, who are absolutely clear about a lot other factors which students are not really aware about. So I think my perception about certain things would have been better. So anybody has anything to answer on these two different stories that I just mentioned?
Yeah, I think that you can answer in the chat. There is one more very, very important question by Uyebi. Uyebi Eno Sandra. She works with the disability cause and she with the organization, and she wanted to, would you like to speak on disability rights in Nigeria? Because she has written that, no? If not, then we can. Shamla Mani is supporting Queenie, and she endorses our point of view. Yes, now you can answer this. And there is one more question by Sulochna ji on the incident involving Atul Subhash, who took his own life due to alleged legal and personal struggles. What are your views about it? So along with Queenie Madam's answer, you can take up this Atul Subhash suicide also. So two questions remain unanswered. Yeah.
So I'm speaking. May I speak?
Yeah.
Disability rights. First of all, I'll say we should not say disability. Differently born people, so differently abled people, because this movement developed how we should be viewed. So it's again a question of dignity of those who are differently abled. So they have rights equally as any human being. That's why we have been telling there should be special schools for them, and those who can be in the normal schools, they should be provided special facilities in the normal schools. Nobody should feel that I don't have rights. That's my, as far as that is concerned. Then Atul Subhash ji telling about these legal battles. You see, every law is used and misused. It's used and misused, I say. But one has to see the larger context, and one should not lose hope that dying for that. I think it is the case with where he committed suicide, this boy, because of that family dispute and all. Nobody should succumb to, if you are right, you are correct, you haven't done wrong, you fight the battle, you will ultimately win. So suicide is not way. We have been telling farmers also, suicide is not the way, fighting is the way. Now we are finding 25% of the suicides last year, according to Crime Bureau, were of daily wage workers. It's because of too much not getting work and no food at home. So these suicides are happening. So we are telling that they need to organize and fight. Die in the field fighting for your rights instead of taking your own lives. So that is important. And when this question our Queenie was asking about, first thing, we should know we are product of this nature. Nature is diverse, and this diverse nature will have diversity of opinions also, ideologies also, colors is there, every diversity is there. It's not that there is no diversity. So this diversity needs to be respected at all levels, and it will happen in ideologies also, in your opinions also. That is why right to free expression is important, right to dissent is important, and these both the rights are in fundamental rights chapter in Indian Constitution. So you had your right to have your different opinion, and the others should have respected your right. You may agree, you may disagree, but to disagree or to agree is not a crime. Only thing is, do you abide by law which is in place for every human being? That's the only issue. When you are breaking law, then it is an issue. When you are not breaking law, having your own opinion, then it's a different issue. So it has to be looked at that. And those who are in the teaching profession, Professor Vibhuti also knows, and she would agree with me. The first thing is the child should be able to ask the question to professor. If you don't have doubts, the society wouldn't have come up to this. It is by discovering the doubting, then making your hypothesis, then doing your experimentation, then forming a theory, then later on with new innovations, your theories also change, because new practices, new things, new innovations have come. So this has been the life since the life evolved on this earth planet. So from that time onwards, if there would have not been doubts, if there would have not been questioning, then the society wouldn't have reached this level. So we have reached up to this level through those questioning and doubting, raising our voice, and then agreeing, disagreeing, all those things. So don't worry, whatever experience you had in JNU, but you take it. But I respect JNU, at least not everybody, but many of them, they believe that everybody has a right to question, right to ask, right to debate. You may agree, you may disagree with my viewpoint. So you have that questioning mind, and that is, I should say, a contribution of JNU to you. But that JNU's, that contribution should not go away. Now sometimes I worry that JNU's culture is going to be changed, and if that changes, JNU was producing questioning minds, and if the questioning mind will not be raised there, society will not be able to progress. So we have to progress, and for that there should be questioning mind. And you before finalizing your opinion about anything, you should be open-minded. Listen to everybody. When you make your opinion and you are sure about your opinion, then don't fear. Place your position and fight for that position. No issue, no problem.
Yeah. Now, last word by Ms.
Can I
Anuja.
just come in for a minute for
Yes,
the question on disability? The others very good.
Yes.
Just to tell
Yeah,
our colleague here that, since UNFPA works on leaving no one behind, we have a strategy on disability, which is guided by the ICPD program of action. It is a strategy called We Matter, We Belong, We Decide, which is basically when we say we matter, we consider the needs of people with disabilities in terms of ethical and human rights dimensions. When we say we belong, we work towards eliminating discrimination that persons with disabilities may face with regard to reproductive rights, household or family formation, etc. I'm not going into the details. And when we say we decide, we recognize specific health needs of persons with disability, including, their reproductive sexual health needs. So, this is our strategy. And of late, we have made very, very conscious efforts to integrate disability as part of all our programming. We begin by understanding the lived realities of persons with disabilities to assess their needs and concerns and work towards designing our programs based on them based on their needs as well. So I'll just stop there. Also, when we work on issues of violence, we say that we recognize the legal capacity of persons with disability on an equal basis with others. So that's what I want to.
Professor, last word from you, Professor Indira. Yeah, Indira. Yes. Co-chair of the session. Yeah.
I think we have we are truly celebrating Women's Day with so thought-provoking and so intense speeches by Dr. Amarjeet Kaur and Anuja, and so much of change is taking place, and with the kind of interventions. So it's really very informative, and all of us know that so many things are taking place. And as ma'am is telling, Amarjeet Kaur is telling, that all of us have a role to play in taking forward the things that we have reached a level, but it is important to take it forward. And I think all of us have a role to, to guide the future generation, not only that, to inspire the future generation, in the sense that they will find the issues to be addressed, but we have to be with them and hand-holding. Thank you so much. Thanks for such a very wonderful session.
I have a question. Can I ask?
No, because I have to chair another international session at 6 o'clock. We have exceeded the time limit by 1 hour. I'm generally a democratic, don't like to this, but I can't do injustice to other Asian sisters who are going to be on the panel at 6 p.m. on another platform. So thank you. So I would like to conclude that 2 champions of gender rights have electrified the discourse on this year's theme, Accelerate Equality. They have encapsulated 50 years of illuminating history of collective efforts that challenge the octopus tentacles of toxic patriarchy that inflicts violence and injustice on human beings, girls and women, boys and men, and gender minorities. Women's rights can be ensured only in the ecosystem of diversity, equality, inclusion, and also dignity and democracy. I would like to end with the quote by Maya Angelou, and I quote, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry. And we must understand that all the trends of the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color." And also, when we had encircled the Parliament of India in 1980, at the time of Mathura judgment, and we all had a women's chain around the Parliament of India demanding justice for Mathura and changes in the antiquated law on sexual violence. The song that we were singing, I'm just translating, I'm reading its English translation done by Dr. Joy Deshmukh. Defying police degradation, tossing aside tradition, we have come. Dalit, battered women, worker, farmer, in an army together we have come. To end dowry, rape, misused authority, to stop wife beating and cruelty, we have come. To wipe women's suppression, to remove class oppression, to free this humanity, in Morcha we have come. From hills and docks and railway sheds, it's in spite of owner's threat and dread, we have come. Look, look, you blind exploiter, tyrant, our army has come to destroy injustice. Our army has come. Thank you. Over to IMPRI.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And with this, we'll bring an end to this session now. I'll just conclude with a formal vote of thanks. And as we have come to the end of our special session on International Women's Day, held as part of the Young Women Leaders and Public Policy Fellowship, I, Priyanka Negi, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude and formally propose the vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI Gender Impact Studies Center. A special thanks to our esteemed experts for today, Ms. Amarjeet Kaur ji and Ms. Anuja Gulati ji, for sharing their invaluable time, wisdom, and expertise with us. Your insights have greatly enriched our understanding of women's rights, gender equality, and the collective efforts needed to create an inclusive and empowered society. On this important occasion, your contributions have reinforced the urgency of advocating for equal rights, power, and opportunities for all women and girls. I would also like to thank our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, and our co-chair, Professor Indira ji, for convening this session thoughtfully. We also extend our deepest appreciation to our participants who have engaged thoughtfully, raised pertinent questions, and actively contributed to today's discussion. Your enthusiasm and commitment are vital to driving the change we all seek. We look forward to your continued participation in our upcoming sessions as we work together to create a more equitable and just future. For those watching us later on YouTube, listening on our various podcasts, or reading our publications, we appreciate your engagement and encourage you to continue supporting IMPRI's Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning initiatives. Wishing you all a very wonderful evening and a future of empowerment and equality. Happy International Women's Day, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Priyanka,
Thank
for
you.
moderating it so
Thank
well.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Really,
Thank
it
you
was
so
really
much.
inspiring. You gave us some
Thank you.
massive food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good health to
Thanks
all
to
of
Thank you,
both
Brenda. Thank you. Thank you.
Amarjeet and Anuja. Thank you so much. So informative, and you systematically you presented everything.
Such a
Very
huge canvas, no? So huge
I
canvas.
know, I know. And activism, and ma'am Amarjeet Kaur, from her personal examples, great. It is great. I tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you.